What is going on, traders? We got a few things to discuss, but before we get into that, like, subscribe, comment your thoughts below. Let's get into the video. So in my last video, I let you guys know that when we're looking at the triple Qs, that 440 was on the table as well as 515 for the SPY. Now, granted, I did not expect that move to happen today. I was leaning more towards tomorrow of that move happening, but it did happen today. So the next question is, what happens from here, or what are my expectations from here? So if you've been following my channel for a while, we know that Fridays and Mondays usually mirror each other. What does that mean? That means that if Fridays are bullish, usually Mondays are bullish. If Fridays are bearish, usually Mondays are bearish. But what happens on Tuesdays? Well, Tuesdays are usually a continuation of Monday. Now, I'm not saying I expect a rally or anything to the upside or more to the upside tomorrow. I more so expect a cool down period, maybe some consolidation, and maybe even some downside tomorrow as well. But it is important to note that there's not much news tomorrow to even support a downside move or even more of an upside move. So I'm more leaning towards the consolidation period tomorrow. All right. We've ran Friday, we ran up today. So at some point in time this week, I think tomorrow is most likely the case where we see some type of cool down phase. So what are your key levels here? So when we're looking at the triple Qs right now, I'm focused on 435, 440. I think we're just going to pretty much consolidate between those areas tomorrow. 437 being the minimum I'm looking at, where we just pretty much bounce around 440, 441, give or take, and 435. So those are your levels I'm looking at tomorrow. I don't expect much upside, but what I will say that 445 on the triple Qs is back on the table here. I can't deny this. We're back above this weekly supply and demand zone. We're pretty much breaking this daily trend. We're above it right now, and it is a tight area, and that's probably why I'm really expecting more so consolidation than anything. If we're looking at unusual wells and we're looking at the flow that's coming in, there is a lot of puts. I will say that much. I mentioned this in the Discord as well. There is a lot of puts. The only thing is that these puts aren't really anything significant as far as out of the money targets. Now, there is a few, but the premiums are very low. For example, this 425 put, it only has 98K behind it, while all of these have pretty much million premiums behind it. So 437, 436 are pretty much the common denominators here. So again, that's why I think that at some point tomorrow we're probably just going to consolidate between 437, 435 being the lowest, and 441 range. As you guys can see, 438 puts, 439 puts, 437. There's nothing really too far out the money for me to think that there's going to be a significant drop or anything tomorrow. And most of the expirations are tomorrow. Some were supposed to be today, and whether they lost or not, I don't know. But this is something to pay attention to. When we're looking at the SPY, pretty much the same thing. There's nothing really significant as far as out of the money contracts that we're looking at. We got 509 puts, but the premium is only 600K. Now, that does sound a lot, but it's not a lot compared to these other ones where this 515 put has an 18 million premium behind it. So, again, I mean, like I said, I just think tomorrow we're just going to see more so a bounce back and forth, maybe between 518, 517 range and 513. So that is something to look out for. We could potentially, there is a 512 put here. So that leads me to believe that 511.5 is on the table tomorrow as well. So I would be paying attention to that target as well heading into tomorrow. So getting back to the charts, your key levels, I mean, I think it's pretty obvious is, 437, 435. Your main level, and I even, marked it out just how significant this level is 433. We break below 433. I think bears are going to step in. We're really a liquid down here, really liquid. So I think it's going to be a fast move. We break below 433, we're going to start heading towards 430, and then after that, you could be looking at, if we look at the daily time frame, you could be looking at a gap fill all the way down to 427, 428. So 433 is the main key level that I'm paying attention to. As you guys can see, we've bounced up to 433, rejected, bounced up to it, rejected. Well, we retested and then rejected. We bounced off of it here, bounced off of it here, over and over. We continue to see just how significant this level is and how the market reacts to it. So if we break back below it, I will really pay attention to potentially more downside as far as the triple Qs go. When we're looking at the SPY, so SPY, I think it goes without saying that our key level here is four. I mean, not four, but 518, 518.5, 518.8. Between those two targets, um, I didn't mark it out, but as you guys can see, very significant retest area here, where we're constantly seeing a retest here, here, and then here, and you get the idea, right? We're constantly retesting these areas, so that just shows us how significant this areas is. We are in a weekly supply and demand zone, so let's go to our weekly time frame. I meant to go to see that, and I mean went to that on the triple Qs as well. But as you guys can see, we are in a weekly supply and demand zone, and I'm going to give you guys a scenario towards the end of the video, so be ready for that. But looking at the SPY, your key levels is pretty much 518.5, 518.8 for potentially more upside. As far as downside goes, you're looking at 513. You break below 513, I would say 512.5. Then you're looking at a move towards 511.5. It's a very tight range in this area. So for us to really like break down, I imagine news will have to, or bad news will have to step in for us to even consider like a real breakdown of this area. But as you guys can see, we're breaking above this bear flag here. So but we're entering in this tight range here. So that just leads me to believe that we either look at consolidation within this range, or we get some type of false breakout and continue and break back down towards that 513, 511.5 range. So be on the lookout for that as far as the SPY. As far as your real key level here, 511.5, I would say 510 your psych level to be safe. And I think at some point in time this week, we could see a move towards 505. I mean, as you guys can see, a lot of rejection here, a lot of consolidation at this 505 level. So that is your significant key level to be really looking out for. I think we could see that this week. It's just a matter of when. I don't think it's going to happen tomorrow, maybe not even Wednesday. Most likely, I'm looking at about Thursday, Friday, where we could potentially see that retest towards 505 and then maybe see either more upside or more downside. I'm leaning, if we do hit 505, I'm leaning more so on the downside portion here because at that point we're breaking back below this weekly supply and demand zone. We hit 505, we'll probably retest at around 511.5, 513, and then break further down. So that is a scenario I am looking at. As far as the weekly, all right, so I said towards the end of the video, but we'll just get it out the way now that I'll give you guys a scenario. So if we are thinking of a double top scenario and the market is trying to revisit all-time highs all over again, we could potentially, like I said, be looking at a double top scenario where we revisit 524. Maybe, okay, just maybe the market rejects at 524. We form a double top. Our neckline will be around 495 and we potentially break down. So that is a potential scenario on the table where our double top pattern will be here. We have one top here and then another one here to potentially form. Okay. That is on the table. All right. Me personally, if we were to break all time highs, I think we can go as high as between 532 and 535. So just something, just a scenario to look out for. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but just don't be surprised it does happen. If we just so happen to break out of this weekly supply and demand zone, then we can head as high as all time, well, 530, 532, 535, around those targets is what I'm looking at as far as the SPY goes. ES. So ES, which is essentially the SPY, we go to a smaller time frame here. ES, pretty much the same thing we're looking at as far as the SPY. I told you guys if we get above 5,200, then I'm going to start leaning more bullish. I do think a retest is due to the downside, but it's just a matter of how much of a retest we are looking at. Right now, I'm just looking at 5180, 5185, give or take. As far as upside goes, we can just head right back up here where this guy is. So let me mark it out. So we can be heading right back up here to 5250, the supply and demand zone here, and maybe reject or continue higher. It really depends. But if we really start breaking like in here and really just start getting rid of these guys here in this area, because there's a lot of turbulence here, we obviously need news for that to happen. But if we break through here, then yeah, well, chances are we're just trying to make new highs at that point. So something to really pay attention to as far as ES. So right now, 5250 is what I'm looking at. Your next key level here is about 5215. And then from there, I mean, at that point, if we just continue to keep going, then we can be looking at a move all the way to 52.50. I think I've said that enough. As far as downside goes, 51.50 is what I'm really looking at. We zoom out, we can see that this is a very significant level that we just keep rejecting over and over and just bouncing off of. So something to really pay attention to. And then right here, we once we broke through it, we like really broke down from there. So we're pretty much doing the same, but in an opposite direction where we broke back through it, and now we're heading higher. So 52.50 is on the table here. So as far as 52.50 goes, that's about 524 on the SPY. So yeah, all right. Um, Again, I don't think this is going to happen tomorrow. If it does happen tomorrow, I would think that would be more concerning if that just happened within 2 days where we just reach all-time highs. I would think that would be concerning and something like big is coming, like something bad is coming. Pause. But we'll see. Um, NQ. So NQ. So NQ, I mean, essentially the triple Qs here. We're looking at the futures of the triple Qs, but NQ has a little more room up here. And then as far as like 18 to 50, I think I told you guys in like other videos that NQ can go as high before the whole Israel thing happened. That NQ can go as high as about 18,300, and I took that target off the table once that Israel news happened and then Meta and all that stuff happened. But it is back on the table. We could be heading back up here. We see this trend line here. So we can be looking at one of these moves heading into tomorrow where we hit about 18,250, 18,300, and then start retesting back to the downside at about 18,100, 1880, and then we continue to see potentially more upside. We can be heading as high as about 18,380. That's what I'm looking at right now. May If we're looking at all-time highs, then obviously we're looking at way above about 18,500, 18,710, give or take. Between that area, if we're looking at all-time highs on the SPY and triple Qs. As far as downside goes, about 17,980, 18,000 is your like real serious level here. I even marked your key level as far as 1880, 1860 range. As you guys can see, we rejected, bounced off of it, bounced here, bounced here, bounced here. Then we broke down. I think Israel news came here. We retested, rejected. So over and over, we see just how significant this area is. We break back below it, then yeah, chances are bears are going to step in, bulls are going to panic, and we are really, really illiquid in this area. I wouldn't say really, really, but we're really illiquid in this area where we can just continue to break back down and see this pattern start to play out. So my overall point here is that although I'm leaning bullish, I just if we really start like making more of a bigger move tomorrow, then I would start really being cautious heading into Thursday and Friday's news. Because that means to me that means we're trying to get something out the way. Like we're trying to get this to the upside out the way as fast as possible before something bad happens. That's what I'm thinking is going to happen just based off how much volume, how little volume we're moving off of. I think the market or maybe even retail traders, which I don't even think has a huge say in the market direction, but I think everyone is just really on edge and expecting something to come. What that is, I don't know, but just really be cautious. Pay attention to how we move tomorrow. Again, I think tomorrow is just going to be a big consolidation day, but if we just start rallying even more to the upside, within 2 days in the beginning of the week and we start hitting all-time highs or even new highs at that point, I think something's going to happen. Like something bad is going to happen. Something has to give, especially if we're trying to do it right before Nvidia earnings. That I would think we will run, if anything, I think we will run or would think that we will run into Nvidia earnings. But if we start doing it before, then I think something is going to happen. Speaking of Nvidia, I don't know if I mentioned this last video, but Nvidia is heading towards this area right here. As you guys can see, let me actually mark it out. But as you guys can see, we pretty much that didn't work out. But as you guys can see, we pretty much are bouncing off this. Well, not I wouldn't say bounce, but we're at this trend here. So 1, 2, 3, we broke through, and now we're heading back to this retest, and we're at this daily supply and demand zone. So 924 is your key level here on Nvidia. We start breaking like out of this whole area. We break above this trend. We break above this daily supply and demand zone. I would say that Nvidia has a really good chance to head towards 1K. Like a really good chance if it's just start breaking out of this area here. So something to really, really pay attention to on Nvidia. All right. That's really all I have for this video. I wasn't planning on making a video today. I usually try not to on Mondays because they're really boring, but obviously today wasn't boring at all. But hopefully you got something out of this. Discord link is in the description below. If you're new to trading in general, Robinhood link is in the description below as well. Very new, user friendly. You get a free stock when you join as well. But other than that, that's really all I have. If you have any questions or you agree or disagree with anything I say in the video, feel free to comment your thoughts below. Maybe I missed something. And until the next video, traders, have a good one.